Hello, everyone, and I welcome you all in our another exciting webinar, which is on innovating for impact. I hope I'm clearly audible. My name is Karishma, and I will be the host for today's session. So let's wait for 2 more minutes. Let others
Hello,
also join
everyone.
the session, and then we will be starting our session in 2 minutes. Okay, let's get started now with our session. I hope you all are doing great and that you had a chance to uh, reflect on yesterday webinar, which was on research and problem identification, and where we had an amazing presentation and discussion. So today we are going to take it to the next level where we will be learning how to innovate for impact. So before we start the webinar, I want to inform you that at the end of this session, I will be sharing a feedback form again today so that you can get your participation certificates. So let me give you a quick overview of what we will be covering today. So we will learn brainstorming technique like SCAMPER, and steps to create innovative projects. And also we will see checklist for optimal solutions. So to present this webinar, I welcome our presenters, Arish Agarwal, Aditi Goyal, and Sparsh Ranjan of grade 11 from Jayashree Parival International School of RFL Academy. So students, kindly start with your presentation and share your insightful research with us.
Right. Thank you so much for that introduction. As you stated, my name is Sparsh Ranjan.
I'm Arish Agarwal.
And I'm Aditi.
Yes, and now we're gonna go into what this webinar will be about. It's gonna be about innovation, basically, as Karishma stated, a step up from last time's webinar, which was about the problem and identifying the problem statement for your presentation to Codeavour. So, again, we're very thankful for this session, and I'm sure that at the end of this session, you'll be able to bring together an idea for your innovation that's not only novel, but it's a winning idea for your final presentation at Codeavour. So webinar 2 is, as stated, about the innovation. So first, we're going to look into how you can creatively think of an innovation. It need not be something completely new, as we shared before as well. Your problem need not be new. It need not be something that's never been addressed, but your take on it should be different from what other people have thought of it. Then we're going to look at how you can find an optimal solution, how you can use the various resources that you have available, whether it be PictoBlocks or any hardware resources that you have. And we're going to also teach you some techniques like Scamper, which are very good ways to identify which path your solution will take, because every solution is not the same. The way you identify it is not the same. But based on the problem that you've selected, based on our webinar one, you'll be able to craft a solution using our methodologies. And lastly, we're going to give you a checklist for an optimal solution, whether it be using your resources effectively, the efficiency of the solution, everything will be covered in that checklist. And after you've brainstormed your solution, you can probably cross check with that checklist and then move on to actually building the solution. All right, now I'd like to hand it back over to Aditi to talk about key points of the innovation.
Hi. So firstly, I would like to say that the problem does not need to be new. What I mean by this is you can just you can tackle the existing ones better. The judges don't expect you to discover a new problem. They want to see how well you understand a real world issue and how effectively you solve that. So, for example, transportation. People need to travel faster and more effectively. So, as an improvement, electric cars were developed over gasoline cars. This also helped in the sustainability part because electric cars do not pollute as much as gasoline or petrol cars. But alternatively, your solution can be entirely new. Your problem can be entirely new. It can be a new perspective on an issue that no one's tackled yet before. This can actually set you apart from every other candidate. So, some new problems arise often due to technological advancements, social changes, or scientific discoveries. So now, for example, more satellites are launched. So now cleaning up space is becoming a new challenge. This is not something that you guys have to take on upon. Cleaning space, that was just an example. The solution can be an improvement. So you can just make an existing solution a better idea, a cheaper version of it, and more accessible. You can make it. You can make a solution like a solution. You can make a project with a lot of resources, but now you can make it with fewer resources in mind. You can make it more user friendly, make it more accessible and easy for use. And mainly, you need to make it more sustainable as well. So, making it sustainable is really important in nowadays because our world is moving towards sustainability. And I think judges would like if your problem solution would be more sustainable. And fourth, and this is very important, is the unique selling point, the USP of your solution. What makes your solution different and better than others? So, for USP to be effective, it should have a distinctive element that sets it apart. It can be based on technology, design, cost effectiveness, efficiency, sustainability, user experience, or you can take an entirely new approach to your USP. So you can ask yourself, what is the one feature that makes your solution different than the pre-existing ones or the others in the competition? Also, if your competitors can easily replicate your ideas, that is not a USP and you need to rethink. USP should also provide a clear value to users. It should not just be different, it should also be useful for the people who will use your solution. Think about the core benefits of your solution. How does it solve the problem better than its alternatives? Then Ask yourself, how does your solution improve people's lives? What real world impact does it actually have? This will give you a very competitive advantage over others. USP will help make your project clearly visible to you, to the judges, and set it apart from the other people competing against you. That is something I think will really help you. And let's move to the next slide. Now, finding a solution. You should really check what resources are available to you. You can just not see, I just want to do this and just do it, because you need to really check of what you can do, what resources are available to you, what can you make of the things that you have. Now, identify both parts of the problem that need to be solved. So this is something that most people miss. And this is not just when you have a problem. Sometimes people specifically solve one part of it. If you have a problem, you need to solve something sustainably. You solve it, but you don't necessarily see the sustainable part of it. So you should focus on both of the things. Now, begin ideating a solution after finding an exact problem. People often find a solution that they think will help them without ever considering what problem it's solving. So I think the judges really like if you find the exact problem, because it really helps highlight your solution and your presentation and everything. And fourthly, methodologies you could use to solve the problem. There are a lot of methods, different methods you could use. And right now in this technological age, I think it's best that I think everyone will be using technologies available to them, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, everything. What you should do is, yes, use them, but also research. ChatGPT and DeepSeek are not good for research, and research is really important, as we said in the previous webinars. You should really focus on the research part, think of the methods you could use, and then find a solution to it. Now moving on to Arish.
So a good technique that I and a lot my colleagues as well have used is the SCAMPER technique. And the full form of this anagram would be substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and rearrange. So let's just go one by one through all of these points in a quick manner. First, substitute. Can you replace a component for better results? So let me just take a quick example of how in our real world, cars, like I think Aditi also gave this example of how cars are becoming electronic vehicles rather than working on fuel engines. This is a very good substitute because you're replacing something that's more sustainable, something that's more effective, and something that's more user friendly for both the environment and as the customer as well. So you should always look into the different substitutes that you can always use in your project. Second, combine. Merge ideas to create synergy. People might think this is bad, that we are plagiarizing, that we are doing copying someone, but no, that doesn't mean combine. Combine means when you take an innovative part of a project that you're inspired by and a part of something that you were interested in and combining it to make something even much better than the original thing that you were imagining for. Combine can always lead to an unexpected result, but the results are usually, I would say, are outstanding, because when you combine, you can see something even more bigger than what you expected it to become. Third is adapt. Modify solutions from other fields. So there's a thing called biomimicry, which is how we take inspiration as a nature of humans from others in respective fields. So you should be able to adapt, like you should be able to take a solution from, let's suppose, in a medical field and be able to take it in a technological field by taking medical AI, which is something going big right now all over the world, like using skin cancer detection through AI, using deep learning models, using machine learning models. How you can modify these solutions to expand to other fields as well, not just medical field. You should have a great adaptability throughout your season of how, whenever you're making your project, to see how you can adapt the solution to the biggest problem that's been going on, or to the problem which is niche enough that you want to solve. Fourth is modify. Change size, scope, or feature. Modifications are always necessary. You should not, and one thing that I have seen people always do is that they modify in the end after they have filled everything, and when they build the final prototype, then they think like, do I need anything? No, that's wrong. After your first design only, when you make your first prototype, after your first idea, you should modify it. You should see what I can improve on it. That's why we also mentioned that always take feedback from others. Someone who's unfamiliar to your project, take feedback from them and modify your project. If you have to increase the size, if you have to eliminate a feature, or you have to add a feature, you should always have an option to able to modify your project to grow, or to, if you want to eliminate something. Fourth is put to another use. Repurpose solutions for new problems. If you think that when you're building your project and you're thinking that your problem isn't really aligning with it, and you're not able to change the core value of it, see where else can you repurpose. So it doesn't mean, so you can always change the project and keep and maintain its core value, but you also have to look at different problems as well. You can't be just focused on one problem. I was thinking I will just do infrastructure. You can always think of, like, if you want to focus on no poverty and infrastructure, if you want to focus on water before life, and then you want to focus on equality and equality, you have to focus on more than one problem. If your solution is just focusing on one problem, it might be good, but it's not something that's on global impact. And that's what Codeavour is especially about, of how you can use your project for global scale. Fifth is eliminate. It's simplify the process. This is also very essential. But this I recommend that you should put this after you're halfway done, and you're decided on like how your prototype should look like. Because eliminate is when then you're thinking like, I have too many features on this, and what are the unnecessary features that I have that I can eliminate so I can make my project more efficient. You should always eliminate any inefficiencies. It doesn't mean that if your project has everything, it's going to be the best project. Elimination is always required to some of the features that might be overusing or that might be unnecessary for your project. And last is rearrange. Alter the sequence or steps for efficiency. You should always be able to make a proper organized way of how you're going to make an effective way of projecting your project. You should be able to rearrange anything. If you want to substitute first, if you want to adapt first, if you want to modify first, you should able to have the option to rearrange at any time, because that increases your efficiency of your project by a lot. So I think this is the scamper technique, and let's move on to a past year winner, and let's discuss what exactly have they done and how they have used scamper technique as well. So their project theme was strengthen the health and structure, and they have focused it on 2 SDGs. So I think this goes again to back my first point, like in the scamper technique, as I said, that your problem should not be only focused on one. Put it to another use. They have used industry, innovation, and infrastructure as one of the first SDGs, and they have also mentioned another SDG, which is their economic growth as well. So they have showed that their solution isn't just for one problem, it's for a multi-purpose problem, and that shows global impact. So let's see what the solution was basically. Helix is an AI-powered healthcare solution revolutionizing diagnostics and patient care. It provides real-time guidance for interventional radiology, early detection of brain, lung, and bone abnormalities, and mental health monitoring using NLP. Helix integrates wearable for epilepsy and vital monitoring, image analysis for cancer and diabetic retinopathy detection, and Archimedean spiral analysis for Parkinson's diagnosis, significantly enhancing healthcare outcomes. So this is a brief solution they have given. Like you can see a lot of techniques, a lot of very technical words they have used, especially in the field of medical as well as a field of technology, mainly AI, I would say, and as well as some of machine learning they have used by taking points as NLP, and then even taking as image analysis. So we can see that they have used very technical words. But one thing I would say, even though their solution is giving them a lot of accountability with using these words, it's not necessary that you're supposed to know all of these words. If you're able to go in depth in your project as much as you can, and if you're able to provide an innovative solution that proves just as much helpful as this solution is, you can still win this competition. It's not necessary that you have to use these words such as retinopathy detection or Archimedean spiral. Your project can still be as good as their level. But these words just add something that's called accountability and credibility. They can be very helpful of showing judges that, yeah, this person has researched enough, and it has also shown that he has taken in such depth of analysis of what exactly is their project based on. And so again, they have also used combine. They have used two fields. One is AI and one is medical. They have combined and they have adapted to two fields together. So we can see how their project is more efficient and something more innovative, even if as it's improving two things from two very different fields. This is something that you can see in almost every past year winner. And I think this is going to be all about how you can use camper technique, how you can describe it in your solution, and how you can show that you are just not solving one problem in one niche area. You're solving a problem that needs global scale and that has a global impact all over the world. It doesn't have to mean like you're just solving one person's problem. It has to show that you're solving multi-purpose problem, and that's how your project should look like. So handing over to Sparsh.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the checklist for an optimal solution. You can think of this as kind of a summary for this entire webinar. And you may notice that a lot of these points may overlap with the problems checklist that we introduced you in the last webinar. And I think the reason for this is because they're heavily interlinked, but the way you interpret each point in the checklist is different for a solution and for a problem. Now, going into use of resources. In this, you should look at the tangible resources that are being used for your solution, whether it's requires a lot of time, whether it requires money, labor, materials, and the extent to which you will be able to provide these resources. Also, your solution should be, because it's supposed to be scalable, it should be reproducible by a lot of people. So that means if you do require a lot of resources to build out the solution, it's probably not the most accessible thing for people to make and for it to have a great impact. Another thing is that you need to think about the fact that you don't have as many resources available to you as a student right now. Of course, you can scale it up in the future, but perhaps when you make your prototype, you should think about, I have pictoblocks, I have these many hardware resources, I'm limited to this amount, and based on that build out your solution. I think no matter what the problem is, you can generally build out a solution. Of course, if you select a more feasible problem for the time and resources that you have, it will be easier to build out a very impactful solution. But even if you're not at that stage, you can still build out an optimal solution with the resources that you have. Next is impact. So, impact should be something that's measurable for a solution. You should have a clear idea that this solution will have this much impact. People can measure it and see my progress through these lenses, through these metrics. And based on that, you should build out your solution. If your solution doesn't have impact, you're kind of failing the point of Codeavour, which is to build out solutions that solve real world problems. And the greater your impact, the greater the impact that can be had from your solution, the better your chances of winning Codeavour. It should improve lives, it should improve quality of life, deliver measurable results, as I said, and the broader and more significant your impact on your target audience is, the greater your solution. Next is scalability. So very similar to impact, but in this case, it's more about how other people will receive your problem. So you should really think about, how is it going to look like in the future? How will people access my solution? How will it be mass produced if it is something that needs to be mass produced? Would people even want to mass produce it? Does it provide an incentive to businesses or consumers for them to use it to improve, to solve problems of the real world? So all these questions need to be answered in the scalability aspect. And if you can't check off all these aspects when you've built out your solution, you might need to rethink how you're gonna present it to the judges, because these questions are very prevalent in your presentation round. So justifying your solution and also having a mental note of this solution is optimal enough is very important. Next is the innovation. Now, as we stated, this is something that's very versatile. Innovation is mostly about the new ideas, the new methodologies or technologies that you've included in your systems. So, innovation can be something new that you've added to a system. It can be something that you've removed from an existing system to make it more efficient. And I think just looking at the scamper technique is a great way to understand what all count as innovation. I think if you look at, and again, I'd really ask you all to look at a previous webinar to get more clarity on problems. If you look at our last webinar on research, you'll see that we talked about industry trends. Industry trends are extremely helpful in identifying an innovative aspect to your solution, because not only can you combine ideas, but you can look at existing ideas and in your own mind think that maybe this is not working as well as it should because the problem still persists, and from that you can gather a novelty for your solution, and that is where your innovation comes in. Codeavour is all about using code, using robotics, using technology for innovation, and I think this is an extremely important category. If you don't pass it, even if you're amazing on all your aspects, they'll all just fail because your project is not innovative. It might be something that's been copied. Next is cost effectiveness. Now, very similar to use of resources, you should, but in this case, more financial, you should look at the amount of money that your solution will take, whether it'll be achievable in reasonable budgets, not just for your local lens, where you're the one building the solution and integrating it in your community, but also from a global lens. Will it be reasonable for countries or organizations to implement? Now, a cost effective solution would maximize not just the value of your work, but it would also minimize the unnecessary expenses. And I think this is something very common in even real world solutions to problems, and why a lot of, say, low income individuals would not want to adopt solutions for sustainability, because they don't see the value in it. They don't see the fact that they're spending money on something and they're not getting a meaningful return. There's a global impact, but they can't see that impact. So what is most effective for them is something that's cost effective and also brings an impact on the world. Next is user friendliness. Now, this may not apply to every solution, but most of the times your solution will be required for a certain user base, whether it be a business, whether it be an organization, whether it be people themselves. And your solution should be easy to use. So I would say if it's a software, a good interface is very important. You should have awareness of your target audience. Perhaps if you've started it from a local lens, then you can take interviews, understand what these people would want in a solution like this. And from a global lens, perhaps look at existing products that may be similar. So you can understand that how these people have adopted effective user interfaces. Now, from a hardware lens, look at it from the lens of ergonomics. So ergonomics is basically the personalization that you've added to a product. And if you look at it ergonomically, then your hardware solutions can be extremely helpful to people. So a lot of past Codeavour projects have been about people who are disabled. And all of them have ergonomically built out their projects so that people can actually use them and it is effective for them and doesn't become a burden. So one example I can give you right off my head is Apple's accessibility features. Even though they exist, they're not user friendly. And most disabled people have to put in a lot of effort to even use it. So not only has the solution become a burden for them, it may not necessarily be solving their problem because of this burden. And now, last, which is probably the most important, is sustainability. So this whole theme of Codeavour 6.0 track 1 is sustainability. So sustainability is extremely important when you're thinking of your solution. So the capacity of your solution to endure over time without necessarily impacting future generations is extremely important. So this is where I would say that if you're using any materials that are harmful to the environment, then you should really step back, rethink whether you can change out the materials. Like I would say, a lot of plastic solutions may not be good for this. And if your solution is putting out a lot of pollution in the long run, whether it uses a lot of electricity, whether it's uh, extremely impactful on the environment, whether if it's like a soil product and it's leaving any toxicity in the soil, that makes it not a sustainable solution because it's causing long-term harm. You may not see it right now, but it will. And that means that your solution is directly going against what Codeavour is this season, which is about creating economically and environmentally viable solutions. So you need to ensure that your solution does not uh, compromise future generations for solving a present problem that you see. And I can guarantee that no matter what solution you've thought of, there are probably ways to make it more sustainable. And there's a lot of substitutions you can make to make it sustainable. All right, that would be the checklist. So once again, thank you for attending this webinar. This was our second webinar on the innovation aspect of Codeavour 6.0 Track 1. We're extremely grateful to Codeavour once again for allowing our team, FRC Kaizen, to host this webinar and share our research and experiences in being in competitions like this. We're very grateful to JPIS and RFL Academy for coaching us so far in first. Just for people who may not have been here last webinar, first is an organization which hosts the largest robotics competition in the world, FRC, and we're the first team from North India. So we're very grateful for this outreach opportunity that we got, and now handing it back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, presenters, for this valuable research. It was really an informative presentation. Now, the time come, we can move on to our Q&A session. So viewers, feel free to ask your questions. Also, as I can see, there are many questions in the chat box. So we will address every question one by one, and our presenters will have to give the answers. So we have here the first question, which that is, how can we research about a topic? We want to build our project in depth. Shivani Roy wants to know this. So presenters, kindly address this.
All right, great question. I think first thing I'll tell you is please look at our previous webinar. It's all about this exactly. It was how to research and how to go into depth of a project. Just to quickly sum things up from our previous webinar, what you need to do is first look at SDG reports because a lot of the themes this year are inspired by the SDG. You can just understand from the phrasing, the logos that it's all about sustainable development. And for this, look at the UN SDG reports, which are published annually. So then you can get a lens of how the problem is progressing around the world. After that, I would suggest go to Google Scholar, which is a website for which compiles a lot of research, and they're all completely peer-reviewed, reliable sources. And from there, look at the solutions that people have posed to these problems. So I think it might be a bit more high level, but if you really want to do a project in depth, then definitely look at Google Scholar as a source. I would say this is where AI can also come in. Instead of like perhaps reading the whole research paper, to get a gist of it, ask AI to summarize it, provide it the link, and it'll summarize the paper for you. And that way you can quickly get through these papers and understand the topic in depth. And once you go to the ideation part, you can employ a lot of these techniques that you may have learned from these research papers and then coherently link them to the problems that you identified in the SDG reports. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Also, just to add on Sparsh's point, all were very insightful. But I would say when you're just going through the research, also just make sure that you have like the data you're going through. Just always take it for future because that can always add your accountability and credibility to your project even more. When you're presenting to the judges, you can show how your research, the data that you the data you got from your research, how has it helped you from making a solution into more depth and into more credible and accountable solution, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much, Sparsh and Arish. I hope that the answers has solved all the doubts. Now let's move on to our next question. Okay, now first I have shared a feedback form in the chat. So viewers kindly fill that feedback form. Also, if you have like for further more queries, you can put that queries in your feedback form as well. And then we will address the queries for sure. So first share fill your feedback form in the chat. Okay, so guys, that is all for today. I hope you all enjoyed this session. And once again, I would like to thank our presenters for their outstanding research and presentation. And also thank you so much everyone for joining this webinar with us. And tomorrow there is also another webinar with another topic. So I'll see you tomorrow in our next session. So stay tuned with us. Have a great day, everyone.